Alright, Algebra 1 students, welcome back. We are diving into 1.2, possibly one of the most important lessons in algebra, the order of operations. But before we do that, I do want you guys to pause for a second and take this quiz. So here's your quiz. I'm going to also have this available. This will be on Edpuzzle, so you guys will have options. But you're going to write an algebraic expression for each one of these. Okay, so write these as an algebraic expression, and then you're going to write a verbal expression for number 4 there. Okay, so there's your quiz. All right, so let's take a look at these. So a number that is a number doesn't say less than, it says less 35. Right, so a number less 35. So for a number, we can represent that with n or x or any other variable you want. So let's just call it x minus 35. Now if it was a number less than 35, that would be the other way around, wouldn't it? It would be 35 minus that number. Okay, so just be really careful. Less and less than make a big difference in order. Number 2 says 1/3 of a number. So 1/3 x, or any symbol you want. And then it's for number 3, it says 18 decreased by 3 times d. So we have 18, and we're decreasing that, so we're subtracting by 3 times d. All right, so there's your algebraic expressions. And then for the verbal expression here, this is going to be one example. You could say, I mean, you can even use the word times, it's fine. So you could say 2 times a number, m, decreased by 15 times a number a, plus 6. Okay, there's no way to misinterpret that, so that works. That's like one of many ways you could do this one, so I'll just look at your answers there. Okay, so for 1.2 order of operations, this is on page 10 through 14 in your books. I recommend that you have a notebook out and you're taking notes for this. I do have notes printed as well. 1.2 order of operations. So before we get into, I'll kind of scroll through here and show you what's coming, but before we get to the rules, which is PEMDAS, which I hope you've heard before, okay? I don't love that saying, but I will use it because a lot of other teachers use it, and I'll go over it. But before we get into that, it'd be good to just practice some of these things. So do we know what a power means? So if we have 2 to the 4th power, you guys, just a reminder that that is equal to 2 times 2 times 2, right? So if we do this out, we have 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 times 2 is 4 again. So 4 times 4 is equal to 16, right? And then you do the same thing for the 4s, but you have 5 of them. 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. All right, so if we do this out, we could just do this in phases. So we have 16 here times 16 times 4. And then you can pull out your calculator and finish that guy out. To evaluate expressions, okay, it is important to remember your order of operations. If you guys are to do this right now, you'll see these often on these internet memes where it says, like, 90% of people will answer this question wrong, and it looks very simple, something like this. And the reason they answer it wrong is because they forget their order of operations. So we're going to focus on that today. Let's see if you can get an answer that is other than 30. Okay, so you're getting 30, you did something wrong, give it a whirl. And the next slide here is going to show you why you may have missed it. Okay, so when we are solving problems like this, it is very important that we all abide by the same rules. Those rules are our order of operations. Okay, so whenever we're solving one of these things, we are always going to start with parentheses. So I like to teach kids PEMDAS. If you don't have that memorized, memorize it maybe. The order of operations. PEMDAS, if you look at this word down. And PEMDAS just is saying this. We always start with our parentheses. That's always hands down number one what we do. Hands down number two what we do is we solve our exponents. Okay, that's what the E represents. Then for number three, we do either one of these, multiply or divide. So if there's both multiplication and division in our problems, what we do is we just go from left to right. It doesn't matter if you divide or multiply first. They work together. So that's why I have them color-coded red. And then the last thing that you do is you add or subtract from left to right. And again, addition doesn't necessarily come first. These two work together. These two work together. Okay, so you just go from left to right. All right, so back to this problem real quick. If I'm going to follow my order of operations, there's no parentheses, so I'm going to go to exponents, which is right here. So I'm going to solve that first. 2 squared is 4. Okay, then I'm going to rewrite everything else out. 16 minus 8 divided by 4 plus 14. Okay, if I follow my order of operations, now I can look for multiplication and division. I do see division here. Okay, so I'm going to actually just divide this out. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So now I have 16 minus 2 plus 14. Okay, so when I solve this, 16 minus 2 is 14. 14 plus 14 equals 28. Okay, so notice it was not 30. If we didn't abide by these rules, what you would have possibly done was subtracted these first and gotten 8 divided by 4. 8 divided by 4, which is 2. And then, well, you would have done 16 minus 8, which is 8, divided by 4, which is 2. 2 plus 14, you could have gotten even 16 possibly. I'm not sure what you would have gotten. 30 is another possibility depending on how you look at it. Okay, let's keep cruising. The order of operations continued with example 2. So for this guy, this is your guided practice, and I love for these to be in your notes if possible. So we're going to use our order of operations, guys. So I don't see any parentheses. I don't see any exponents. All right, so if I go back to my PEMDAS, I don't have any of those. So I'm going to keep just cruising. I'm just going to erase this real quick. I'm going to keep cruising down my list. Do I have multiplication or division? Yes, I do. So I'm going to do that out. So this is going to be, what, 84? And then I'm just, notice how I just bring everything else down here. Don't have any more multiplication or division, so now I can just add and subtract straight across from left to right. 3 plus 84 gives me 87. 87 minus 5 equals 82. And I'm done. Okay. For 2b, same deal, guys. I'm going to look at my order of operations. I don't have parentheses, so I'm going to start here. That is equal to 64. So I have 20 minus 7 plus 64 minus 7 times 11. So now I'm looking for any more exponents. I don't have any, so I'm going to go to multiplication. Okay, so I'm going to multiply that out. That is equal to 77. So I have 20 minus 7 plus 64 minus 77. Notice I just dropped all my signs and everything else down. Now it's just adding and subtracting, so I go from left to right, right? So I have 13 here. 20 minus 7 is 13, plus 64 minus 77. If I do that out, I get, what is that, equals 77 minus 77. So all of that is just equal to 0 if I did my math correct there. Okay, so now we're going to move on to what happens if we have parentheses, or for that matter, what happens if we have multiple sets of parentheses. So if we have multiple sets of parentheses, it's always important to start with the innermost parentheses first. Okay, so let's just do that real quick here. For this one, I don't know why I did this, but I solved it all down for you guys. But notice what I did here. I went with the innermost parentheses first, okay? Then I had those parentheses again, so I took my exponent out there. 5 squared is 25. Okay, notice everything else just gets taken down. Then I have this set of parentheses that I have to do. So I did that, got my 7, 6 times 7, 42. Right, so always solve the innermost parentheses first. So let's do some guided practice with parentheses. This is going to be 3a. I believe this is 3 on page 11 of your textbook if you want to look at that. But here we go. Let's try this out. So the first thing I got to do is I got to start with, if I'm going to remember my PEMDAS here, okay, I'm going to start with my parentheses. So 10 minus 8 is 2. Okay, so I've gotten rid of my parentheses. And now I bring everything else down. 5 times 4 times 2 plus 20. Okay, technically these are both multiplication problems, but I want to simplify this one out first. So I'm going to go to the parentheses again. There's no exponents, but I'm going to just solve this piece first. So I have 5 times 8, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 20. Okay, so now I'm on to multiplication division. That's this. 5 times 8 is 40. 40 plus 20 gives me 60. All right. For 3b, this is a parentheses within parentheses here. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to that. So we have parentheses inside parentheses. I'm gonna solve that first. 3 minus 2 is 1. So I have 1 squared plus 10 in these brackets. Okay, technically those can go to parentheses once I got rid of the inner ones. So now I'm gonna just bring everything down again and solve again. So 1 squared is just 1. So I have 15 minus 10 plus 1 is 11 plus 6. And then I just add and subtract because there's nothing else left to do. So 15 minus 11 is 4. 4 plus 6 is equal to 10. All right, so there's some examples there with parentheses within parentheses. And lastly, you guys, the very last thing I want to do with you guys is algebraic expressions. So these are expressions, which means they're not equations. You see some equal signs there, but there's not an equal sign in the problem, right? So this is an expression. What they want you to do for the last few problems is they want you to get used to plugging in values. So we have these values. We know that y is equal to 5, x is equal to 4, z is equal to 3. They want you to plug those in to this expression that they give you. So whenever I plug something in, I like to use parentheses. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to use parentheses when I plug that in. Okay, so let's do that. Let me just show you guys that. So we have 3 parentheses. Notice I'm just plugging it in for this. X is equal to 4, so I'm going to put a 4 there, squared, plus parentheses 2 times y, which is 5. And again, I'm going to use parentheses to plug things in, plus z is equal to 3. So 3 to the 3rd power. And then I'm going to close that off. Okay, so I plugged everything in. Now I'm going to follow my order of operations. So I'm going to start with these parentheses and the inner parentheses, and then I'm going to go into exponents. So 3 to the 3rd power. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. 2 times 5 is 10. So I've got that guy going on. Cool, and I'll just keep this the same here for now. Okay, so let's solve these parentheses out. So I have 3 times 4 to the 2nd power plus 37. 4 squared is 16. So I'm going to my exponents now. 16 times 3 plus 37. Okay, and then when I do that out, 16 times 3, last time I checked was 48, I believe. So 48 plus 37. And then my final step is just doing that math. So that's 70, 85, if I remember right. And I'm done. Okay, this is all also shown for you on page 11 of your textbook. So if you want another example, it's there. All right, so a couple more guided practice for you guys, and then we will call it a day. So here we go. Last example. We're just going to plug things in and solve. Okay, so here we go. We have the a is equal to 2, so I'm going to plug it in to this a here. All right, so I have 2. I always use parentheses. 2 squared, parentheses, and maybe I'll use a bracket, okay, because I know I'm going to put more parentheses in there. 3 times 6 plus 5. Okay, guess I don't technically need brackets there, but that's okay. Divided by 4. Okay, so I'm going to start with my parentheses here. Let me just get rid of this. So 3 times 6 is 18. 18 plus 5 gives me 23. So when I rewrite this, I'll have 2 squared times 23. I just simplified everything that was in the parentheses, divided by 4. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my exponents. Exponents here, I have this guy, so I have 4 times 23 divided by 4. So now I'm just going to go from left to right. 4 times 23 is going to be, I believe, 92. 92 divided by 4. 4 goes into 92. Let's see if it, well, I guess I'll just show this for you guys. 4 goes into 92. Some long division. We get 23. So this is equal to 23. And we're done. Last one, guys. So let me just change colors here so we don't get confused. So I'm just going to plug in again. So we have 5 times d, d is 4 in this case, plus parentheses 6 times 3 minus 12. Okay, so I'm going to do my parentheses first. That's 18 minus 12, right, which is equal to 2. So 20 plus 2 is equal to 22. Hold on, did I do something wrong? Oh, 18 minus 12. Duh. See, this is what happens when you try to rush too fast in your math, you guys. This is not 2. It's 18 minus 12, which is 6. There we go. I knew that looked funny. And you get 26. Okay, so this is a little quick lesson on order of operations. Okay, remember PEMDAS. If you can remember this little saying, it'll help you with your order of operations. You always start with parentheses, then exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Your homework, don't worry about this too much. I'm going to give you guys a homework sheet, and we'll see you guys in class.